السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياكم الله وإياكم، أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا. Can everyone hear me properly? كيف حالكم جميعا؟ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. حياكم الله. Please just confirm you can hear me first before I start talking all day. Okay, طيب. Alright, Bismillah. So we continue بإذن الله الكريم with the grammar challenge. And before I start, like always, let's talk about where we are. First and foremost, first thing I want to do is I want to apologize. I want to sincerely apologize because unfortunately, I feel like I failed a lot of you in terms of the level of the class. So, of course, the vocabulary challenge, alhamdulillah, we had something nice going on with explanation for 3 different levels. But it's a bit more difficult with the grammar challenge, and it requires a lot more work in order to figure out how to deliver it to level 1 students and then level 2 and level 3. And also because of the time being very limited, and the fact that the vocabulary challenge mainly relied on your hard work and minimal explanation from me, and this particular challenge relies a lot on explanation. I feel like I've left a lot of the beginner students kind of behind, or they somehow fell behind. That's one thing. And also, even for the maybe more advanced students, perhaps the explanations were a bit too technical at times, which I'm sure some of you would appreciate. However, maybe it's better for more detailed lessons that last a bit longer. So, Alhamdulillah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the first time we're doing this. I have the content, but the way to deliver that content, that's another challenge altogether. Okay. So today we're going to do things differently, completely differently. And before we start with today's class, I'd like to say to the students on level 1, or those students who might have struggled a little bit with keeping up with the explanations, because I've put a poll out, as you can see, on the different groups, and it's quite a few students. Inshallah, we're going to do a 2 or 3 part lecture, inshallah, in the coming few days, maybe Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, where we I'd like to call it the grammar challenge made easy. Okay, so catered more to the level 1 students. Of course, higher students are welcome to join, but those lectures are going to be at a much lower level, and we are also going to cover a lot of the things which, um, in hindsight, maybe should have been covered in this grammar challenge, but it was a bit difficult because there was just too much to cover. But there are some crucial, basic things that for someone who's never learned grammar before, perhaps that would have be a gap in their knowledge, which might have negatively affected their comprehension of the other things that we've explained. So that's what I would like to say. Inshallah, more details on that in the groups, the WhatsApp groups. I'll share more details regarding those level 1 classes and when it's going to start and when it's going to be. For the normal challenge, today is the 5th day, and we have one more lecture left, which is the 6th. On the 6th day, we're just gonna cover both the complex and the compound sentences in one go, because they need to be focused on a bit more in a more detailed course anyway, but they're just to finish off the framework that we had. And today we are going to practice. Today we are going to practice a lot. Um, as a matter of fact, today is all about practice, putting into practice what we've learned so far, so that hopefully what we've covered so far makes more sense. To answer the quick question, I'll ask a quick question asked by one of the sisters. Ya Ustad, please clarify when you use the term phrase, do you mean clause, i.e., sentence? Yes. No, 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 sorry. No, I don't mean a clause. Phrase is literally, in Arabic, it's called shibh jumla. It is they would say, constituent of the sentence, which means that it is not a complete sentence by itself, but it does give you some important information. Like if I say fil bayt, at home, a phrase is basically something that normally consists of more than one word, but it's not a complete sentence, not a complete predication, if you like. So we have phrases that we put together that gives us a whole sentence, and that's what we're going to practice today anyway. So don't worry, we'll talk about that in a moment, inshallah. Naam. So the core plus detail makes a phrase, but also if you have uh, a detail itself could have more detail. So you could say fil bayt, which means in the house, which could be detail, but maybe that house is also a big house, fil bayt al kabir. So that's added detail. So all of that makes up a phrase. A phrase, basically, like I said, it very simply put, it is one or more words, yes, that function as one constituent or one part of the sentence, which then which have a head, and that head would either be a subject or an object or a predicate or whatever. It would have a function within the sentence, and all the words that follow would just be modifiers and, you know, if you like, more detail for that word, so that you know what's being talked about, which we're gonna practice today, inshallah. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay. Right. So, like I said, today it's all about practice. Before we do start the practice, however, we're gonna quickly recap what we did last week. I mean, last lesson, and then we are gonna try to put everything uh, into practice, inshallah. So, on I think it was Tuesday's class, we were talking about agreement rules. Okay, we didn't talk about agreement rules in detail, but we covered mainly. We talked about core, the difference between core and detail, and how um, the core words are heads of the phrase, and the detail words are followers. Okay. Um, and we gave this particular example, right? The same example we always used, al-ibnu yaghsilu sayyara. And then we gave more detail. We could say, for example, al-ibnu al-bar, or we can say al-sayyara, or sayyarata al-ab, or whatever. So this is the core, basically, and any detail we add to explain which son we're talking about, which car we're talking about, that would complete the phrase. Okay. Type. So in terms of phrase types, by the way, we have, just like the sentence has multiple components, if you like, all of them could be phrases. So we could have a subject phrase, basically al ibn. Okay. What about the ibn? It could be ibnu, al-saghir, al-kabir, al-aq, al-bar, whatever. And we could have multiple words, unlimited words, to explain or to describe the ibn. Then we have the predicate phrase, which, if we had a one word predicate like a noun, for example, al ibnu yabki, no, not, al ibnu, for example, if we're talking about the son, we want to say that the son, for example, is big, al ibnu kabirun, for example. Then we can say, add more things to kabir to explain it more. A verb phrase, an object phrase, prepositional phrase. So these are the things that a sentence consists of. And each one of them could be a phrase. And that's the key here. That's the key. The key is that you should not look at a sentence in terms of words. You should look at it in terms of phrases. Okay? And that's what we said. That's the key, most important takeaway from last lesson was the core plus detail, they make the phrase. And we analyze a sentence based on phrases, not words. Okay? We look at the phrase as a whole, and that's how we analyze it. And that's why Any phrase can be, especially if it consists of a noun, it can be replaced by a pronoun. You can put a pronoun in its place with no problem. So, for example, if I say اشتريت, um, let's say kitab, right? اشتريت كتابا أسود, black. Let's say it is رخيص, let's say it's cheap. And let's say, for example, mufid is beneficial. So three adjectives I've used to describe this book. كتاب أسود, اشتريت الكتاب الأسود الرخيص المفيد. Three adjectives, right? I bought a book, kitab. That's the head of the phrase. Everything else that I've mentioned, that it's cheap, that it's black, that it's beneficial, all these are adjectives to describe the book. Now, these four words all together, I can replace it with one pronoun. Okay? Um, for example, اشتريت الكتاب الكبير الأسود المفيد ثم and then فقدته, I lost it. I lost it. So فقدته, the who at the end, that pronoun, it literally replaced everything. Okay? Um, or if you want, I can say اشتريته. اشتريت الكتاب and all of these adjectives, I can replace all of that by saying اشتريته, I bought it. So the who would take the place of all of these words. So that's what we mean by a phrase. A phrase can be replaced by just one pronoun. Same thing can be said about the subject, or whatever. Okay? I can say, for example, نحن الطلاب, or نحن طلاب جامعة الملك سعود. We, the students of King Saud University, اشترينا كتابا جديدا. Okay? So all of this, نحن طلاب جامعة الملك سعود, all of this is one phrase. Okay? All of this is one phrase. That's why when I said اشترينا, we bought, this we, or the na at the end, it refers to that whole phrase. It can replace the whole phrase. Okay? So who is na? Who is اشترينا? اشترينا, يعني, which means we bought. If someone said to you, who is we? You would say we, oh, نحن طلاب جامعة الملك سعود. Okay, that would be the full description if you like. You can continue. You can continue. But the point is this. When you look at a sentence, look at it in terms of phrases, not words. The words can be many and plenty, depending on how much detail the person wants to give or how much detail is required. However, when it comes to the sentence itself and the function of each word, we look at them as a group, as a phrase, not just individual word. And I think this is the biggest mindset shift, if you like, of looking at sentences when it comes to trying to understand a sentence. Because a lot of people, beginners, they will most likely get lost in the detail. So they see an Arabic sentence, a very long sentence, but if they're not able to differentiate between what the core is, what the detail is, they'll get lost in the detail. Okay, and that's what we're going to practice today. Today, it's all about you guys. So that's what we covered today. Like we said last time, we're going to have a part two of that lecture. And today, basically, we have these phrase types that we mentioned. And I'm just quickly going to show you what each phrase is composed of. All right. So we're going to cover mainly two things. It's three things in total, but we're now going to focus on two things. We have the head, which is, like we said, the word that takes the i'rab, fatha, kasra, dhamma, normally the first word. And then we have the words that follow, which, yani, technical terms, they call them modifiers. I like to call them pointers, or you can call them detail, whatever, right? And they can either be nouns, modifiers for nouns, as in if it's a noun, we can have things to describe the noun, okay, or to point out the noun. Like we said, kitab, aswad, mufid, all of these things are pointers, they're modifiers. They tell us more about the book. Okay, so here we have two things. We have um, what we call, and I'm going to write them in Arabic for you, by the way, mudaf ilayhi. That's the most important one. I know a lot of you, know a lot of you get probably intimidated by the English translations more than the actual Arabic. So I'm going to hide this for now. Okay. Then we have sifa, mudaf ilayh. It doesn't really exist. I mean, it kind of exists in the English language, but the best word terminology I found for is annexing noun. So that's probably confusing. So let's just say mudaf ilayh and I'll explain to you what it means. And then we also have, again, another big word called a positive, is basically bedel, a word that takes another word's place. Okay. These are the main three things, if you like. There are more words or more types of grammatical words that describe a noun, but let's just stick with these three. As a matter of fact, let's just stick with these two for now. Okay. Mudaf ilayh and sifa. Okay. So you have a noun, you have something you want to talk about, which could be the subject, or you have something that's the object. And in order to give added detail, you can either come and use or add a mudaf ilayh. And I give you this example many times before. You have a book. We said you have a book, kitab, al-kutubu kathira, books. There are many books, but there's only one book that we can say in our hands, which is Kitabullah. There's only one book that we can say is what? Kitabullah. Okay? Kitabullah. Allah's book. So this mudaf ilayh basically is the word Allah. We've used it to show you which book we're talking about. Because there's a major difference between Kitab Sheikh Salih Al Fawzan and Kitabullah. Major difference. Okay? Um, in many ways, right? So instead of, so sometimes we want to describe something or we want to clarify something, not by giving it attributes like saying it's big or small or expensive or beneficial or divine. That's one way. Sometimes you can simply deliver the message and be precise with regards to explaining what you're talking about by just ascribing one noun to another noun, by just establishing the connection. That's it. All we need to do is establish the connection between this book and the fact that it's from Allah. We say Kitabullah and that's it. Automatically, it becomes a book that we respect, that we honor, that we place in a high place, a book that we love, a book that we look after, a book that we hopefully read every single day. Because of that connection, it's Kitabullah. Okay? So that's what we call mudaf ilayh. Muhim jiddan jiddan jiddan. Like I said, a lot of people they misunderstand mudaf ilayh. They think mudaf ilayh means possession. It belongs to someone. Not necessarily. Mudaf ilayh is not about possession. Mudaf ilayh is more about the connection that you establish between two nouns, which clarifies and gives a better understanding of the first noun. So the first noun being kitab, that's the noun we're trying to clarify. And the second noun is the noun that will establish the connection to tell us which noun we're talking about. Of course, in English, it's the other way around, opposite. We would say Allah's book, right? And when, of course, in my opinion, the Arabic way is far, far better. Why? Because when you say Allah's book, or if you say, for example, uh, let's say, for example, you want to say, I saw Muhammad's son. I saw Muhammad's son. رأيت ابن محمد. In Arabic, رأيت ابن محمد, the thing that you mention first is the person you actually saw. And then you mention the other noun, which establishes the connection so that you know who you're talking about. Whereas in English, you say, I saw Muhammad's son, you're mentioning Muhammad first. But you didn't see Muhammad, you saw his son. So I know you're used to it, it's your language, it probably makes sense to you. But if we were to compare these two usages to someone who does not know English or Arabic, he will clearly prefer the Arabic way of doing things because the thing you're talking about actually takes precedence. That's actually mentioned first. And then the modifiers or whatever you need to clarify what you're talking about, it comes after. They're followers. That's why in Arabic they're tawabi'. Okay? مضاف إليه is not considered توابع, by the way, grammatically speaking, because توابع, they're talking about إعراب, the حركات, but مضاف إليه doesn't follow the same حركة. مضاف إليه always has كسرة, or whatever takes its place. So مضاف إليه is always مجرور. And we explained last time why it's مجرور, because we said we kind of forced it into the sentence because we couldn't find a better way to describe it. Okay? And also because um, you can never separate between mudaf and mudaf ilayh. You can't separate between the two. So that's another reason why it's majroor, because the mudaf drags it along with it wherever it goes. If you take the mudaf ilayh and you want to put it at the beginning of the sentence, at the end of the sentence, then they move together. Okay, the mudaf ilayh is pulled along and dragged along wherever the mudaf goes. That's another reason as well why it's called mudaf ilayh. But na'am, that's the first example. The second one is sifa, the adjective. Now, the adjective, sifa, is different. Sifa, it follows. It has the same haraka. If the noun is masculine, sifa is going to be masculine. If it's feminine, sifa is going to be feminine. If it is definite, sifa is going to be definite. And that's what allows us to differentiate between the sifa of a word and all the other words. We just look at, we have this word that is marfu', okay, which words follow it? If we find a word that comes after it that's the exact same in every single attribute of a noun, and a noun has four attributes, gender, number, definiteness, and i'rab. If the noun follows it in all these four aspects, we know it's a sifa for this noun. Okay. Then we have adjectives for, or adverbs or description words for verbs. We call them adverbs. Um, and we have adverb of place that tells us where it happened, adverb of time that tells us when it happened, adverb of manner that tells us how it happened, and adverb of reason tells us why it happened. Okay, so these again, they um, describe the verb. Now, there's a major difference between these two. Who can remember? I mentioned it before. What's the biggest difference between those words that describe a noun, okay, called adjectivals, from them are adjectives, and those words that describe verbs called adverbials? What's the biggest difference between the two? And now I'm going to share the WooClap link with you right now. See some it. Now the practice session starts. Get ready today to type a lot of Arabic. Aywa. Today you'll be writing a lot of Arabic, so get ready. Okay, now the first question, you can type this one in English, no problem. What's the biggest difference between words that describe a noun and words that describe a verb? Um, 1 minute. I'm sending the link now. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to pose the question now on WooClap. Bismillah. So, what's the biggest difference between words that describe a noun and the words that describe a verb? What's the biggest difference? There's one major difference between these two, which you have to be aware of. I've mentioned this before. Okay, so far we have two answers. Noun has no tense and verb has tense. No, you're actually talking about the noun and the verb itself. No, I'm not talking about the biggest difference between nouns and verbs. If that was the question, your answer would be correct. The biggest difference between nouns and verbs is that nouns have tense and verbs they don't. That's true. But I'm not asking about the noun or or the verb. I'm talking about those words that describe a noun called adjectives or whatever else, positives or whatever. Adjective false, they're called in total. All those words that describe a verb. What's the biggest difference between those two? You conjugate a verb, a noun has three possible i'rab. No, 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 no. Okay, so here we have some good ones. This is the correct answer first. Let me give you this. Adjectivals will be right after the noun is describing. Adverbs can come anywhere. This is the biggest difference. That's the biggest difference. Okay. But someone here mentioned another difference. He said words that describe a noun are in agreement with the noun, and words that describe a verb basically are not in agreement with the verb, which is true. Which is true because there can't be agreement between the noun and the verb. There can't be any agreement between a noun and a verb, aslan. Um, and what they call agreement between noun and a verb is not really agreement between the noun and the verb, it's the agreement between the pronoun that's embedded within the verb and another noun. But the verb itself can't agree with the noun. Why? Because a verb has completely different attributes than nouns. A noun has gender, verb doesn't. The pronoun does in the verb, but the verb itself doesn't. A noun has definiteness, a verb doesn't. A noun has, if you like, number, like one, two, three, or plural or singular or dual. A verb doesn't. But the pronoun in the verb does. So you have to differentiate between the two. Okay. Um, in English, it's adverbs and adjectives, not sure about Arabic. Yes, but they're also called adjectives are one type of words that modify a noun. There are others as well, like appositives. So whatever you want to call them adjectives and adverbs, no problem. Let's not get stuck on the English terminology. But in Arabic, they're called صفة and مضاف إليه, and the ones that describe verbs, for the most part, they're called مفاعيل. مفعول به، مفعول فيه، مفعول له، مفعول معه, المفعول به. They're called مفاعيل. But that's not all of them, but most of them are called مفعول مفاعيل. مفعول مطلق. There's some type of مفعول. Okay? And then you got some extra other ones as well that we will cover another time. طيب خلاص. That's enough explanation for now. Okay, now we're going to actually put things into practice and then hopefully things will make more sense. Okay, so today we're going to write Arabic sentences, inshallah. Um, of course, one other thing that could be part of a phrase are what we call conjunctions, which basically is when you say, for example, I bought اشتريت كتابا وقلما ودفترا. اشتريت, I bought, كتابا وقلما ودفترا. Three things. The first one, كتابا, that's the object, is the thing that I bought. Now, when I say وقلما ودفترا, well, I bought those things as well, but grammatically speaking, they follow kitaban, as in they take the same ruling as kitaban. We don't say we got three maf'ulun bihis here. No, we only have one object, which is kitaban, and the other two they follow, as in they take the same ruling. That's what we call conjunction. So that's why these three things all together are considered to still be part of one phrase. How do we know they're all considered to be part of one phrase? Because again, we can replace them with one pronoun. So I can say اشتريت كتابا وقلما ودفترا ثم, and then again فقدتهم. I lost them, just like we said before. I tend to lose a lot of things. Huh? نعم, I bought a pen and I bought a book, a pen, and a notebook. ثم فقدتهم, and then I lost them. So فقدتهم, whom, lost them. That one word has replaced what? All these three nouns. What does that tell us? It tells us that they're considered to be one thing. Okay, so we're not going to say, oh, we have three objects now, we have three maf'ul bihis. No, I bought a book and a pen and a notebook, and they're considered to be one phrase. Now that's what we call conjunctions. Okay, and I'll finish off with this just to show you why we consider it to be one thing. Because in essence, we have combined three sentences. That's why we call this the compounding effect, Arabic grammar's productivity hack. Why? Because what we had is initially we actually had three sentences. We had a sentence that says اشتريت كتابا, and then we had another sentence that says اشتريت قلما, and then we had a third sentence that says اشتريت دفترا. We had three sentences. But instead of sounding repetitive and saying اشتريت كتابا, اشتريت قلما, اشتريت دفترا, I bought a pen, I bought a book, I bought a notebook. Instead of saying that three times, we keep everything that these three words have in common, which is اشتريت, yes? And then we say kitaban, and then everything else we appended, we kind of connected with the word wa. So اشتريت كتابا وقلما ودفترا. What basically means and everything mentioned before. That's what it means. So it kind of replaces everything that came before. The what, just that one word, which is and, which again is not something specific to Arabic only, by the way. English, you do the same thing. You say, I bought a book and a pen and a notebook. You don't say, I bought a book, I bought a pen, I bought a note. You don't say that three times. I bought a book and a pen and a notebook. So the word and, that's what we call a conjunction. This is part of the phrase, by the way. Why am I stressing on the fact that it's part of the phrase? Because it has the same ruling again. It has the same ruling. Okay? So again, we still maintain what we've learned at the beginning, which is that the core can only be one of four types if we're talking about simple sentences. Either you have a mubtada and khabar, and that khabar could be one of three types: ism mufrad, or shibh jumla, or a khabar that is itself a fi'l and it's fa'il. Or you can have, if you like, a mubtada, and what do we say? We have mubtada ism. We had four in total, صح? We had four with different khabars. Or you can have a mubtada with a fi'l that has an object, مفعول به. That was the fourth one. Okay? So we still maintain that. So even if you say اشتريت كتابا وقلما ودفترا, it still falls in that bracket of having a verb and an object, even though we have three words, not all things that we've bought. So we have to differentiate between grammatically, how we call the structure or how we categorize the structure, and what it actually means in terms of meaning. In terms, object doesn't necessarily have to mean, everything that you bought is an object. No, the maf'ulun bihi is one thing, and everything the rest they follow. But if I were to ask you in terms of meaning, how many things did you buy? You say I bought three things. But grammatically, they're one. These three things are considered one thing. واضح? It's like one order. Like if you go and place an order on Amazon, and you put many different products in your shopping cart, yes? At the end of the day, you get a bill for all these products, one bill, because it's considered to be one order. So that's the same thing with objects and these phrases. They're considered to be one entity, one thing altogether. Okay? طيب, so let's put this into practice. Bismillah. I'm going to show you two images. Okay? I'm going to show you two images. And you are going to write an Arabic sentence describing those two images. So in total, I want two sentences. Okay? One sentence to describe each image. واضح? Is that clear? طيب. The first image, we have two doors. Okay? We have two doors. I want you to describe this image and this image. Start with whichever one you like. I want a very simple sentence There is a جملة اسمية, okay, um, one that talks about this and one that talks about this picture over here. Okay, give it a try, and after that, we'll check your answers, and we'll point out the mistakes and how it should be. Okay, so again, describe the image that I've just shown you. I'll show it to you again. That's the image. I want you to describe it on WooClap. Okay. Yalla, you've got about. Yalla, I'll give you 2 minutes. No problem. Take your time. Um. All right. For the very first image, I'll just help you out by describing it in English, right? Or just pointing out what some of the things are that you should be pointing out. Now, of course, you can see, of course, we have two doors, no doubt. But as you can see, they're two different colors, okay? And they're in two different states, okay? So now I want you to give me a sentence, two sentences, one about this one and one about this one. Now, everything you've learned is going to come to life, okay? Bismillah. And trust me, I am sure we're going to have so many learning opportunities coming out of this exercise. Inshallah, everything will fall in place. Bidnillah al-Kareem. So far, we have four answers. Um, I did not enable the timer. I will for the next one, inshallah, to give a bit more time. Bismillah. Of course, if you're watching the replay on YouTube, then you can just fast forward it. Unless you are writing as well, which is good. I encourage you to get a pen and paper, even though you don't have access to WooClap, of course. I encourage you, if you're watching this later on, to pause the video and actually get a pen and paper and write it down. You'll learn a lot from your mistakes. Okay, so we have about 9 or 10 answers. Let's start checking out some of the answers. Bismillah. طيب. الباب أزرق مفتوح. الباب أحمر مغلق. Okay. الباب الأحمر مكسور والباب الأزرق مكتوب. I don't know what you mean by مكتوب. I think you mean مغلق maybe or مفتوح. طيب. Then we have الباب الأزرق مفتوح الباب الأحمر مغلق. Okay. Okay. الباب الأحمر مغلق. مكتب طبيبي داخل الباب الأزرق الكبير. الباب الأحمر مغلق. مكتب طبيبي داخل الباب الأزرق الكبير. Seriously? You saw a doctor's office in between the door? I didn't see that. But let's keep it simple, by the way. We want simple sentences, huh? Um, here we have الباب الأزرق يفتح الباب الأحمر اغلق. Okay. All right. So let's all right. Let's review these answers. Okay. Let's review these answers. So we have this one. Um, this let's start with let's start with this one. Let's start with this one. Okay. الباب أزرق. I suppose it is مفتوح. Okay. And this one says الباب أحمر مغلق. طيب. Right. What I want to know right now is what's the difference between this sentence. Some reason this is not me. What's the difference between الباب الأزرق مفتوح and الباب أزرق مفتوح? Okay. What's the difference between those two? So that's like a new question now in WooClub. I want you to answer. If I can just leave. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question. Okay, no one can see WooClub. Okay, no problem. All right. What's the difference? Or I would say translate following two sentences. These are two interesting sentences. How would you translate these two sentences? So we have الباب أزرق مفتوح. Oh no, I actually put down the same ones. 1 second, fix that. How would you translate the following two sentences? الباب أزرق مفتوح and الباب الأزرق مفتوح. So there's a difference here between these two sentences. واضح؟ The door is blue open. The blue door is open. Okay. Let me tell you. Here we have الباب أزرق مفتوح. Here we have the door. Okay. And what we said is whenever you see the word that is um, nakira, okay. Okay, let me share the screen 1 second. I thought I was sharing it. Share the whole window. 1 minute. Okay. So we have الباب أزرق مفتوح. الباب الأزرق مفتوح. The rule here is that when you see the word that is nakira, that's where the khabar starts. That's where the khabar starts. So الباب أزرق مفتوح means the door is. Okay. So I'm going to put the is barrier here. Is blue. Okay. And open. Okay, you're gonna ask me where I get end from. I got end because this is بدل. مفتوح is not a, a description of أزرق. مفتوح is talking about the book. So it's as if I said the door is blue and open. So the door is blue and the door is open. That's something we have in Arabic that we don't really have in English, whereby you don't have to use the word wa. Okay, so the door is blue and open. Okay, this one over here means, again, we say the door. We say um, مفتوح here is the khabar. That's where it starts. So this is part of the subject, which means that azraq is a description of the door. It's an adjective of the door because it agrees. It's got alif lam, and al-bab has got alif lam. So this is now an exact example of what we meant by knowing which word is a detail for which word describes which word. So this one does not describe this word, as in, it doesn't describe it as an adjective. Rather, it's a khabar, it's information that we give you about the door. Whereas this one does describe this word. So we have the blue door. And then we have is open. واضح? Do you see the difference? Okay, let's check out some other examples of uh, maybe mistakes that people made. We have الباب أزرق مفتوح. Same thing applies to, of course, to المغلق as well. الباب, of course, someone said الباب فتح and إقلق. No, that's you're using now a verb. It's like you're saying to someone, open the door, and you're saying to the other person, close the door. But there's no other person involved here. I asked you to describe the words in front of you that you can see. Okay? واضح? So الباب الأزرق مفتوح and الباب الأحمر مغلق. Now, well done. Barakallahu fikum. And I'm going to write both sentences. I would have said الباب الأزرق مفتوح. Okay? Um, okay, let me ask you a question. What's wrong with this statement or the way this person had translated it? One person said الباب أزرق مفتوح. Let me show you now. You guys see my screen? Yes, I think you can. So الباب أزرق مفتوح and الباب أحمر مغلق. This is actually wrong. Who can tell me why? This is actually wrong if you look at both pictures. Okay? If we consider both pictures, then translating it this way is actually inaccurate. Okay, why? Okay, let me see if I can copy these two. Oh, you have to really use your brain. Okay? Why is it inaccurate? Or I wouldn't say inaccurate. Why is it a bit vague to say الباب أزرق مفتوح and then what? Because we're gonna add both sentences together. والباب أحمر مغلق. Why would that be a bit, not very eloquent? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with saying الباب أزرق مفتوح والباب أحمر مغلق? You have to be really smart to answer this question. But it's really the essence of Arabic comprehension, right? So one person said الباب الأزرق مفتوح. That's the perfect answer. والباب الأحمر مغلق. That's the perfect answer. This is the second closest answer to that answer, but there's something wrong with this answer. مبتدا is nakira and the khabar isn't. No. You're just describing what he wrote. I'm asking you in terms of meaning. Yes? What's wrong? There's no agreement between sifa and mawsuf. No. Look, it's not a grammatical mistake, by the way. There's nothing wrong here grammatically. You can grammatically say الباب أزرق مفتوح والباب أحمر مغلق. Grammatically, it's correct. But in terms of describing that picture that I've shown you, it is a little bit ineloquent and inaccurate. Okay, because it leaves the question, is the door blue or red, and is it open or closed? Okay, yes. So because there are two doors and the wrong sentence would mean that there are only one door. Yes, exactly. So barakallah fikum, well done. Here you have two doors, and if you say, if you come up with a sentence where you say al-babu azraqun maftuh, the door is blue and open, and then you have an exact, you have another sentence that comes after it, which I'm going to add here. I'm going to append it, yes, to show you that, because I told you to describe both pictures in one sentence, right? So let's append the two sentences. Al-babu azraqun maftuh wa al-babu ahmarun mughlaq. Now, when you say this, barakallahu fikum, you're basically talking about one door. Okay, so the subject is one thing. So the door is blue and open, and the door is red and closed. That's basically what it means in English. So that means you're just talking about one door because you said the door and the door twice. And you did not give any detail about that door to tell us which of the two you're talking about. Rather, the information you gave us is that in the first part you said it's blue and open, and in the second part you said it's red and closed. So now the question is, make up your mind. Is the door blue and open or is the door red and closed? واضح? Why do I say that? Because al-bab is only one door. If you were talking about two different doors, then you should have used an adjective to differentiate between the two. So that's why al-babu al-azraq maftuh and al-babu al-ahmar mughlaq, that's a perfectly good sentence. The blue door is open and the red door is closed. Okay, واضح? The blue door is open and the red door is closed. Now, why is this sentence so different? Because of where you put the is. The is came after the blue door, which means now I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the blue door. What about it? It's open. All right, thank you. Jazakallah khair. You gave me some new information that I didn't know. Or whatever. You told me something. You gave me info. Right? You told me something about the blue door. Shukran lak. Okay, how about the red door? And the red door is closed. Okay, shukran. That's would be an accurate description, yes, of the picture. واضح? So when I said to you, there's a lot to be learned from the actual mistakes. Of course, we can go over the clearly obvious mistakes, but I don't want to spend time on that. I want to spend time on those things that might sound intricate, but they make a major difference. Because if you walked up to someone and said الباب أزرق مفتوح الباب أحمر مغلق while talking about this picture, they'll say, what are you talking about? You're confused. صح? Imagine also you read an ayah in the Quran and you make some kind of mistake like this in terms of your understanding, whereby you think that the ayah is talking about one door. If there's an ayah talking about a door, or let's say the ayah is talking about something else, and you think the ayah is talking about one thing when the ayah is actually talking about two separate things. Okay, well, how do you know if the ayah is talking about one thing or two separate things? That's where, my dear brothers and sisters, the barrier or the the separation between the phrases come in. Do you see now what I mean? Okay, here azraqun maftuh is one phrase, okay, which is the khabar. That's one phrase. And ahmarun mughlaq is one phrase, okay, which means more importantly that al-bab here is just by itself. So now when you have al-bab here mentioned twice, al-bab and al-bab, and they both have definite article, the door and the door, there's absolutely no difference between these two doors. You're talking about the same door. Okay, you said two things, two separate things, about the same door. But if we come to this one over here, la, this is completely different. Here, the subject is al-babu al-azraq, and here the subject is al-babu al-ahmar. Okay, so now you're talking about two separate things. You're not talking about the same thing. We're talking about a blue door and a red door. Okay, talk to me. Tell me about the blue door. The blue door, maftuh, it's open. Okay, okay. Talk to me about the red door. الباب الأحمر مغلق. أيوه, شكرا. Now I've benefited from your speech. واضح? What do you guys think? What are your thoughts? Very conscious these days of, you know, getting too technical. You know, I want to be sure that you guys are on the same page as me. Does that make sense? Yes or no? What are your thoughts? Okay, something that seemingly seems extremely simple and straightforward, but it isn't. Okay, here we had two doors. We finished that. Now we're going to go on, inshallah, to the next example, which again, I want you to be precise. Right now, you know what I mean by be precise. Okay? طيب, make sense? Alhamdulillah, ممتاز. If it doesn't, don't feel shy to tell me that it doesn't. Okay? Um, طيب, let's go on to the next example. Now, the next example, we have two teachers. Okay? And they're both holding a pen. Okay? So the adjective follows the noun and it's not separate. Yes, the adjective follows the noun. So if the noun has an alif lam and the adjective has an alif lam, we know that that is an adjective that describes the noun. We know it's one phrase. Okay. Yeah, so this benefit of not needing the noun when it's clear the word's not describing the adjective. Yeah, that's what we call in bedel. That's the main difference. I said we'll do bedel later, but that's really the main difference between bedel and sifa, which is that bedel doesn't describe the noun that comes before it. It goes back to the original noun. Okay, it goes back to the head. They're just two nouns that are equal in terms of their meaning, and they equally return back to the head noun, or they equally go back to the other phrase actually, or the head noun, or whatever you want to call it. Type here we have, but we'll talk about that another time, inshallah. So we said we have. So it's to do with the adjective being definite, 100% yes. But to be more precise, it's not about the adjective being definite or not. It's more about the agreement between the adjective and the head noun. It's more about the adjective following the head noun. Okay, so that's why if the head noun is indefinite, then the adjective is also indefinite. Okay, so it's not really about, oh, adjective has to be definite. No, it's rather about the fact that when you have a mubtada and it's followed by another noun that is ma'rifah, and mubtada is normally always ma'rifah, so normally always definite. So when it's followed by another noun that is definite, you know it's an adjective and not the khabar. So how do you know the khabar has started? You know that if it's indefinite, because the mubtada is definite, the khabar is indefinite. So that's how you know that it has to be khabar and it can't be an adjective. واضح? Okay. All right. Let's duplicate the exact same one. I know one of you said it's becoming clearer, and I know that. I know that things they become clear when you start to practice. Um, so I'm aware of that. So that's why we're working hard on creating as many exercises as possible, and that's why today I decided to spend most of the lecture on explanation. Sorry, on practice. Sorry. Okay. So let's look at the next image. Bismillah. Now I'm about to share my screen. Bismillah. So we have this. As you can see, you have two pictures. طيب. Here we have one teacher holding a pen that looks new and whatever, you know. Here we have another teacher also holding a pen. He's meant to be a teacher as well. And that pen looks like it's broken. Okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to describe this sentence and describe this sentence and draw the contrast between the two. واضح؟ Bismillah. Paying close attention to what is ma'rifah, what is nakira. Uh, if you need help with the actual Arabic words, tell me. Tell me. Okay? That's not a problem. So we have a mudarris, teacher. صح? Then we have qalam, which means pen. Then we have a pen that is broken. We call that maksur. And we also have another pen, which, if you want, you can call it jadid. It's new. Or you can call it blue. It's up to you. Use whatever way you want to describe the other pen that the other teacher is holding. But the other one, the one on the left, definitely his pen is broken, miskin. But the other one, he seems like he's got a new pen. Okay? Or we can say he's got a pen that is not broken, which in Arabic would be called salim, or maybe not even salim. It would be um nah. Let's just call it jadid. Let's just call it new. Let's say the other teacher is holding a new pen. Okay? Now I want you to describe the two. Bismillah. Can you guys answer on WooClap? Just double check. Oh, I was sharing my screen, right? That's what you meant to describe. Okay. You guys can share, you can see the screen, right? صح? You can't see that? The two teachers? And then we have the WooClap, which is on the next page. Now, yes, I want you to describe the pen. So we said one pen here is broken, okay, and the other pen is new, okay. So this pen here is new, intact, mashallah, and this pen is broken. And these two guys are teachers. They're both teachers, okay. Mudarris and mudarris, and this is qalam and this is qalam, okay, and this one is new, jadid, and this one is broken, maksur. I've given you the vocabulary. I don't mind. This is not the vocabulary challenge. But it's your job to put that into a grammatically correct sentence. طيب. See where we are. Okay, so we got 10 answers. Bismillah. Let's start reviewing them. So we have قلم مدرس جديد وقلم غير مدرس مكسور. Okay. All right. مدرس القدم قلم جديد. Okay. مدرس القلم مقصور. مكسور بالكاف. قلم المدرس مكسور، قلم المدرس جديد. Okay, I like this one as well. Okay, I like this as well. قلم المدرس مكسور، قلم المدرس جديد. هذا قلم المدرس مكسور، ذلك قلم المدرس الجديد. المدرس كسر القلم. Okay. Alright, so we have some sentences here. بارك الله فيكم. We have um, let's start with this. مدرس القلم مكسور, which I think some of you have also said that. مدرس القلم بارك الله فيك, that's thinking in English. You're basically saying the teacher's pen is broken. لا. Like I said, in Arabic, you mention the thing you're talking about first. Okay? Here, you're basically saying the teacher is broken. Okay? You're basically saying the teacher of the pen is broken. The teacher of the pen. First, you can't have a teacher of a pen, number one, unless you're talking about, I don't know, maybe a pen like where animals live. But نعم, a pen is in the pen that we write with. Pen doesn't have a teacher. But a teacher can have a pen. So you should say قلم المدرس, not مدرس القلم. That's one thing. So the thing that is maksur should be mentioned first. That's the subject. And then you use the word mudarris to show us that the pen you're talking about is the pen that belongs to a mudarris. Okay, so that's the first thing. So that's the first thing that both pens have in common. They're both qalamul mudarris. That's step number one. And that's why I chose to have two teachers, because I wanted you to practice your mudaf mudaf ilayh. Okay, which is the first step to describe what kind of pen you're talking about. Then give me the information. What's the information? Maksur. Okay, mumtaz. Okay, so that's why this sentence here, qalamul mudarrisi maksur and qalamul mudarrisi jadid, perfect. The teacher's pen is broken and the teacher's pen is new. Or here, this person said, okay, not that one. Where is it? قلم المدرس جديد وقلم المدرس غير مكسور. مكسور with a ra, I think this meant to be. Okay, which is also fine. Which is also fine. You can say that it's broken or not broken. Okay, غير مكسور. أحسنت. Okay, this person said, I am going to describe the pen, not, I'm not just going to say the teacher's pen. No, let me give you an explanation of the pen in terms of its location. We have one on the right, one on the left. But then you wouldn't say al-qalam al-shamali. You wouldn't say that. Okay. This preposition phrase here, al-shamal, it would be like that, al-shamal, without a preposition fi or ala, if qalam was a verb. But it's not a verb, it's just a noun. So you need to have the full prepositional phrase. You have to say al-qalamu fi shimali, the pen on the left. Wal-qalamu fil yamini, the pen on the right. You can't say al-qalamu shimal. That basically means the right pen, which I suppose is again thinking English. The right pen and the left pen. No, that's not how we say it in Arabic. In Arabic, we can only use the locational adverbs without having fi or ala or using these prepositional particles only if they relate to a verb. And we put a fatha at the end, like سافر محمد شمالا. Muhammad traveled to the north. Shamal also means north, by the way. Or جلس محمد يمينا. Muhammad sat on the right. يمينا. We don't need to say في اليمين, but that's only specifically for verbs. على أي حال القلم الشمال. I like the effort. أحسنت, but it should be القلم في الشمال. Which would itself be a problem. Not really a problem, but it would القلم الذي في الشمال. يعني okay, القلم في الشمال لا بأس لا بأس. هذا قلم المدرس مكسور. وذلك قلم المدرس جديد. Okay, that's a problem. This is a problem. هذا قلم المدرس مكسور is a problem. Is a problem. Who knows why that's a problem? هذا قلم المدرس is a problem. Why? Because okay, مضاف إليه gives us extra information, doesn't it? It gives us detail. Okay, so when you're pointing something out, you say هذا, and you draw my attention to something. That means you're gonna tell me something about this thing. Okay, and I know what you're talking about because you're pointing at it. You're saying هذا. So therefore, when you use هذا, then the word that follows, it doesn't need مضاف إليه because I already know what you're talking about. Rather, what happens is if you do use a mudaf ilayh, then that's the information that you've conveyed to me, which means that that phrase then becomes itself the khabar, which means you've told me that this is the teacher's pen, which means Maksur has got no place here. You already gave me information, you already gave me the khabar, you told me this is the teacher's pen. For example, it's like me saying, هذا كتاب الله. It's me saying, هذا كتاب الله. This is the book of Allah. Kitabullah here is the khabar. Okay, we can't say now that Allah is mudaf ilayh that we used in order to tell you which book I'm talking about. No, I already know which book you're talking about. You're pointing at it. You're saying hada. So you don't need to use mudaf ilayh to tell me which book you're talking about. Instead, the mudaf ilayh that you've used now, that's the information you've given me. Thank you. Now I know it's Allah's book. Which means you can't then add another word that is nakira to be the khabar because I already have the khabar. Now you can still tell me that it's broken, but then that maksur would be an adjective. You would say هذا قلم المدرس المكسور. This is the teacher's broken pen, and that's fine. You told me it's the teacher's pen, and you told me it's broken. Thank you. Okay, but maksur would not be the khabar. Again, this is subhanallah a mistake that I could not have anticipated that someone would make such a mistake, such that you know I would be prepared for it or we would explain it beforehand. This is actually a mistake that I did not see coming. واضح? And it's not even it's actually a mistake that first when I looked at it I had to think, wait a minute, what's wrong with this? And then I figured out like, okay, and that's when I explained to you. But it's you're probably a bit confused now. Maybe I should not even have addressed it. But the point is this. Point is this. Going back to the basics. Like I said, we use mudaf ilay to differentiate and show you what we're talking about. Okay? But when it comes to ism ishara, هذا and هذه and ذلك, then I already know what you're talking about. Which means now the mudaf ilay's original purpose, it has lost it. You can't use it for its original purpose anymore, which is to show you which qalam we're talking about. Rather, now the mudaf ilay sort of becomes itself information, not a pointer or specification. Is that clear? I hope it is. Type. Let's go to the next picture. Okay, someone said, Ustad, is it not correct if it translates to this is the teacher's broken pen? Good question. That's a good question. And I'm going to pose that question to the other students. Who can answer that question? If we said, I'm going to, هذا قلم المدرس مكسور. Okay, I want you guys to tell me, can that be translated to um, can we translate هذا قلم المدرس مكسور. Okay. To mean. What did the person say again? Um, you said no. You put it on YouTube. Ustad, the question is it correct if we translate this to the teacher's broken pen? Okay, so let's see that again. Um, uh, okay. Can we translate this to mean the teacher's broken pen? I think you mean this is the teacher's broken pen. What do you guys think? ما رأيكم؟ Can we translate هذا قلم المدرس مكسور to this is the teacher's broken pen? Tell me what you think about it and tell me why it's right or wrong. The meaning of al is still present in qalam, so maksur wouldn't match agreement rules. No, because the broken must have al. Yes, so that's basically the point. Qalam here is ma'rifa, it's definite. How do you know it's definite? Because it is being ascribed to a definite noun. So the teacher's pen, right? The teacher's pen. So if maksur were to be an adjective, it would have to have an alif lam in order to agree with qalam. So it would have to be al maksur. Okay, but since it doesn't have alif lam, that means that it is indefinite, which means that it is the khabar, which is why we have a problem because we can't have qalam al mudarris being a khabar and maksur being the khabar. واضح? How would we know if the adjective refers to the teacher or the pen? Okay, so the adjective always refers to number one. You would know that by the dhamma or the kasra. So maksurun. Okay, if it's maksurin, then it would be an adjective for the mudarris. هذا قلم المدرس المكسور with alif lam. المكسور would be, that would mean this is the broken teacher's pen. The teacher would be the broken one. المكسور with a kasra. It would follow mudarris. That's why when I'm telling you that the agreement rules are so important because it shows you what follows what. All right, next one. Here we have a father and two sons. Okay. Let's say the father's name is Khalid. Okay. So I would say describe Khalid's two sons. Let's call the father, it's called Khalid. Okay. And I want you to describe Khalid's two sons. I'm going to show you the picture now in a moment. Where did he go? Okay. So here we have Khalid, and these are Khalid's two sons. Okay. Okay. I want you to describe Khalid's two sons. Okay. And I said describe them. I didn't say name them. You can't come up with a name. You need to give me a description. واضح؟ يلا بسم الله. المدرس يحمل قلما جديدا. So you have to say قلما, by the way. You have to add an alif after the meme. جديدا also needs to be an alif because it's an object. المدرس يحمل قلما مكسورا. Oh, okay. If you want the words, we have obviously Khalid, then Ibn means son, and happy means Farhan. Okay. And we have sad, Hazin. Okay. Or crying, Bakin. Or just use Hazin if you want. Farhan. We have Hazin. Farhan. Hazin. Okay. And this, the father name's Khalid. You can't type a who clap? Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, there you go. It should be live now. Okay, ممتاز. If you can add harakat, add harakat. Or I'll add harakat later and make you guys choose. Because this is the sort of example where the harakat will make a major difference. Okay, let's see what we've got. Trust me, this one is a bit more difficult. Okay, please, I want you to use two sentences. One sentence for each son. Don't give me a whole paragraph. Okay? Don't give me a whole paragraph. Two sentences. You're not allowed to use three sentences. I see one of you has actually given the correct answer, but the person has resorted to using three sentences. La, I want only two sentences. I want two sentences. Okay. Okay. Let's start talking about it then. We have Barakallah fikum. Um, okay, let's start with this one. Let's start with this one. ابن خالد شاب فرحان ابن خالد صغير حزين. What's wrong with this? Well, what's wrong with this is that you have not told us which son you're talking about. Okay? This is the exact same mistake we had at the beginning, which was الباب أزرق مغلق والباب أحمر مفتوح. Same problem. Ibn Khalidin, Khalid's son. So here you said about Khalid's son that he's Shabun Farhan. He's youth, smart, a happy youth. And you also said that Ibn Khalid is small and sad. La, now you're basically confused. You said two things about Khalid's son. It doesn't work that way. Okay, the exact same mistake that we said that we had before. So this is wrong. Now I know some of you used, I said three sentences. Khalid lahu ibnan, al-ibn al-kabir farhan, wal-ibn al-saghir hazin. Okay, well you can actually condense this to two sentences. Let's see if someone managed to do that. Okay, someone said here, Ibn Khalid al-kabir farhan, Ibn Khalid al-saghir hazin. Allahumma barik. Perfect. Exactly what we're looking for. Ibn Khalidin, and I'm going to break it down for you to show you why it is correct. If this allows me to copy, Allah musta'an. I don't know why it's not playing up. Okay. That is the correct answer. Let's see if we got something else. Ibn Khalidin, Al-Ibn al-Akbar li Khalidin Sa'id. Wal-Ibn al-Asghar Hazin. Okay, that's fine. Al-Ibn al-Akbar, the big son li Khalidin, of Khalid, Sa'id, is happy. Well, Ibn al-Asghar is okay, but it's not as eloquent as Ibn Khalid al-Akbar and Ibn Khalid al-Asghar. That is very eloquent. Then we have Ibn Khalid al-Saghir. Okay, this is correct as well. Ibn Khalid al-Kabir. Okay, mashallah. Mumtaz. Actually, a lot of you actually got it right. So let's break that down. Let's see why it's correct and what the alternatives are and why they would be wrong. Okay, let's break it down like we did before. So let's say two sons. Okay, we have Ibn Khalid al-Saghir. Ibn Khalid al-Saghir Hazin. وابن خالد الكبير فرحان. Okay, number one, Ibn Khalid, Khalid's son. Okay, like I said, someone said before Ibn Khalidin Saghir and Ibn Khalidin Kabir. We said that's wrong. Why? Because that would be Saghir and Kabir would be the khabar, and Ibn Khalid would just be one person we're talking about. But here, what we've done is, Barakallahu feekum, what these students have done is they turned this into the subject, right? Ibn Khalidin as-Saghir and Ibn Khalidin al-Kabir, so that the listener knows who's being talked about. This is the whole point. When you say Ibn Khalidin as-Saghir, I know that you're talking about the little boy. When you say Ibn Khalidin al-Kabir, I know you're talking about the big boy. Okay? واضح? We can't just say al-Ibn al-Saghir, al-Ibn al-Kabir because, we wouldn't know they're Khalid's sons. So imagine there's another guy in the frame as well on the picture. We don't know which person. That's why I gave you the name Khalid Aslan, so that you could use it as a mudaf ilayh construct. So mashallah, this is now the subject. And then Hazin would be the khabar, which of course is what? Nakira. And Farhan would also be the khabar because it's Nakira. So here we have this phrase that consists of three words. Ibn Khalidin as-Saghir. Now another question comes to mind. Should this be as-Saghiru or should it be as-Saghiri? Well, it depends. It depends. Who is small? Is Khalid the small one or is the Ibn the small one? That's why, again, importance of agreement. If we say Ibn Khalidin as-Saghiru, then Saghiru is a description of Ibn, the young boy. Khalid's young boy. However, if we say Ibn Khalid as-Saghiri, then we're saying the young Khalid's boy. So there might be a Khalid or Al Khalid Al Kabir, Ibn Khalid Al Kabir, the big Khalid's son. It might be two Khalids. Okay, one is big and one is small. Okay, but we don't have two Khalid. We only have one Khalid. So we don't have a Khalid that is Saghir and Kabir. La, but we do have two sons. We have an Ibn that is Saghir and Ibn that is Kabir. So that's why the Dhamma is very important here because it follows Ibnu, Kabiru, Ibnu. And then we have Hazinun and Farhanun. واضح? Does that make sense? Now, of course, saying Ibn Khalid, Saghir, we've covered why that it's wrong. What else can we say? Hazin, if it's Al Hazin, then that would be incorrect as well because that would still make it part of the subject. So for example, if someone made everything ma'rifah, what would happen? Then all of it would be the subject, and this would be an incomplete sentence. It would mean Khalid's sad young boy. Khalid's sad young boy. What about him? Don't know. Haven't said anything about him yet. Okay, so obviously Hazinun has to be nakira because it is the khabar. واضح? Is that clear, everyone? Okay. We have one more example. Bismillah. We have two books. Okay. Again, we're following roughly the same principles. Okay. Let me describe the two books. Okay, let me show you the two books. So these are the two books. Okay. I want you to describe them. Okay. The question is live on WooClub. I want you to describe these two books. So as you can see, of course, one book is really expensive, the other one is cheap. Someone said, how come it's Khalid with two kasras rather than one kasra? Well, why would it have one kasra? It doesn't have alif lam. Normally, a word would have one kasra if it's preceded by alif lam. But Khalid is not preceded by alif lam, so it's Khalidin, just like it's Khalidun, Muhammadun, Muhammadin, Muhammadan. Okay, so that's why it has one kasra. Naam, it's Hazin and not Hazin, correct. Hazin and not Hazin. But again, sound recognition, and I have to cover it another time, inshallah. Okay. So here we have two books again. We have two books. One is, like we said, expensive, one is cheap. I want you to tell me and describe by looking at this picture which book is cheap and which book is expensive. Now you can look at it in terms of color. There are two different colors. Okay. Uh, Red is ahmar and orange is burtuqali. Burtuqali. It sounds a lot like burtuqal, orange. Burtuqali and ahmar. Okay. So you look at it in terms of color. If you want, you can look at it as well in terms of location. One is on top of the other, but that might be more difficult. So you can just stick to the color if you like. Okay. And now, let's see what we've got. only have two answers so far. Okay. رخيص with a صاد, not a seen. Again, sound recognition. الكتاب الأحمر غال والكتاب البرتقالي, not برتقال, برتقالي رخيص. كتاب الأحمر غني. غني means rich. I don't think the book is rich, but it's غالي, it's expensive. والكتاب البرتقالي رخيص. Again, رخيص with a صاد, not a seen. الكتاب الأحمر غالي, الكتاب الغير رخيص. Okay. الكتاب الأحمر غالي الثمن. Okay, you can say that as well. غالي الثمن. This is actually quite sophisticated. So the red book is expensive in price. والكتاب الأصغر أصفر رخيص. أصفر من نعم الكتاب البرتقالي أوكي لا بأس. أصفر أوكي لا بأس. الكتاب الأحمر ب$100 والكتاب البرتقالي رخيص. أوكي $100 also you can say that instead of غال, no problem. But نعم, the important thing for me here that I'm paying attention to is what? Which alhamdulillah I can see we have got major improvement on, which is Al-Kitab Al-Ahmar, agreement between Kitab and Ahmar, the red book. Alhamdulillah, so far I have not seen Al-Kitabu Ahmar. The book is red. Okay? I haven't seen that yet. Alhamdulillah. Which means we're making progress. So Al-Kitab Al-Ahmar and Al-Kitab Al-Burtuqali. Okay? Then I can see that what? The khabar for most of you have also got the khabar correct by not including alif lam. By not including alif lam. Al-Kitab al-Ahmar ghali. Should be ghalin, but that's for another day. And rakhisun. None of you wrote ar-rakhisu. Okay? نعم. Here we have Al-Kitab al-Ahmar al-Ghali فوق الكتاب البرتقالي الرخيص. نعم. I like this. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. So the person here is saying that the red expensive book, so here al-Ghali, they made it what? Also ma'rifah. But it's because it's not the khabar. The khabar is that it's fawqa, it's above. Above what? Al-Kitab al-Burtuqali al-Rakhis. It's above the orange cheap book. This sentence wins the day, mashallah, tabarakallah, whoever wrote that. That is very creative, spot on. You've used the location as well. And most importantly, this is the most important thing, my dear brothers and sisters, pay attention. And I'm going to actually copy it over so that I can explain it in more detail. الكتاب الأحمر غالي وفوق كتاب الرخيص. الكتاب البرتقالي رخيص وتحت الكتاب الغالي. Okay, this is also very good. Only problem here is what? You wrote كتاب الرخيص. لا, الكتاب الرخيص. This is not, it shouldn't be مضاف مضاف إليه. Look, مضاف مضاف إليه is when we have two words that are unrelated and we establish a connection. But when you have a word and an adjective, you can't make it مضاف مضاف إليه. الرخيص can't be مضاف إليه. رخيص is an adjective. So you should say الكتاب الرخيص. فوق الكتاب الرخيص. الكتاب البرتقالي رخيص وتحت الكتاب الغالي. Not تحت كتاب الغالي. Because when you say كتاب الغالي, it sounds like you're saying Ghali's book. So it sounds like Ghali is a person's name. واضح? But you're trying to say that it is expensive book, which means it's a sifa, it's a na'at, which means they have to follow. Again, remember, they have to follow each other. If you want to use it as a sifa, it has to follow each other. طيب? Okay, let's quickly break down or at least cover what we said. The correct answer. Bismillah. So this was about two books. Okay. So we have الكتاب الأحمر الغالي. By the way, we have to add a ya here. Okay. فوق الكتاب البرتقالي الرخيص. Okay. Now what I want you to pay attention to is let's break this down into, let's give them colors. Okay. So we have the color of the subject, which I think I've been using green so far. Okay. And then we have the color of the preposition or the khabar, which I've been using purple so far. So this is the mubtada and this is the khabar. However, as you can see, the khabar consists of 4 words. The first one being the preposition, and then we have the prepositional object. So we have the, in this instance, will be mudaf mudaf ilayh, right? Not jar majroor, mudaf mudaf ilayh. However, this is basically above the book. Now, you could have stopped there. Al-Burtaqal al-Rakhis, there's extra information. Okay? This is now shibh jumla. فوق الكتاب shibh jumla. That's the prepositional phrase, that's the khabar. So this follows the prepositional phrase, the core structure template that is mubtada followed by shibh jumla. Mubtada followed by prepositional phrase. الكتاب الأحمر الغالي فوق الكتاب. Okay, then the question is, which book? Al-Burtuqali, orange. Ar-Rakhis, cheap. So all of this now is part of the, it's a completion of this phrase, the prepositional phrase. And that's why, remember earlier when I said to you, you can have detail that also has detail. So فوق الكتاب, which is actual the khabar, right? In this instance, it's actually the core of the sentence, right? But let's say فوق الكتاب wasn't. Let's say فوق الكتاب maybe it was an adverb, right? Because it's a noun, any noun can have further detail. Okay, I mean the second part of it, this one, the mudaf ilayh. So al-Burtuqali al-Rakhis is a description or an adjective of al-Kitab. Okay, but still that doesn't change the fact that all of it is considered to be what? One phrase. All of it's considered to be what? One phrase. Okay. How do we know all of it can be considered one phrase? Because we can replace it with one word. Okay. Earlier I gave you the examples of replacing with a pronoun. Well, we can also replace it with a question word. What if I said what if I said أين الكتاب الأحمر? Or sorry, أين الكتاب الأحمر الغالي? أين. This أين, where is, that's a question word that replaces this whole sentence. And the answer to أين would be فوق الكتاب البرتقالي الرخيص. So I can replace this with أين. All of it I can replace it with أين. Turn it into a question. Obviously, أين would come at the beginning of the sentence because question words always come at the beginning. And it would turn into أين الكتاب الغالي. This is what we call a transformation. I just took a statement and I turned it into a question. Open-ended question. أين الكتاب الأحمر الغالي? ما الجواب? The answer is the answer is فوق الكتاب البرتقالي. واضح؟ That's the answer. Okay, so again, أين الكتاب. Okay, this would be what? Okay. أين الكتاب الغالي الأحمر الغالي. This is the same as this. Okay, but this is the word that we use to ask about this, and this is the answer to that. Okay, واضح؟ أين الكتاب الأحمر الغالي فوق الكتاب البرتقالي الرخيص. That's how we know that this is all of it is considered to be one phrase. You can consider it to be one word. Do you guys now understand what we mean by please look at sentences in terms of phrases? Don't look at it in terms of sentences. If you do that, then Arabic language comprehension will become so much easier. واضح؟ طيب. I was hoping to maybe cover and maybe take 1 or 2 verses from the Quran as well. Like, wallahi, the time has run out. What are your thoughts? on today's class, and also more importantly, um, is it clearer now than before? Allah يحفظكم. Share your feedback with me. Like I said, inshallah, as we do more and more of this, hopefully things will become easier, more refined, more to the point, inshallah. But I do understand the struggle that some of you go through trying to understand what I'm explaining when it might not be catered to your level. But that's one of the challenges that we are bound to have when we're teaching on YouTube like that, trying to, you know, cater for everyone, which is not possible, of course. طيب, alhamdulillah. Yeah, so what do you guys think about this format of practicing a lot? Okay, I know it's probably better, but just give me your confirmation. It brushed away a lot of dust from my mind. It helps when we practice a lot. No, I don't think I can disagree with that. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Now, I want to share with you guys the thought process behind today's exercise. It is that um, it's the fact that grammar becomes so much easier when you're confronted with a real life problem. Okay, and that's what we're trying. We're trying to, with the best of our ability, may Allah make it easy. We're trying to um, bridge the gap between theory and not even theory. Actually, we're trying to bridge the gap between learning grammar as a science and using it in your speech or in your comprehension. That's why I decided to give you real life examples of a father and his two sons, and two books, one expensive, one cheap, and two teachers with a pen, and what have you, and getting you to try and express yourself, because this is the real life. Wow, this is the real life. Okay. Um, and also, more importantly, when you have these kind of pictures where you're contrasting, yes, um, to try and get your point across, making sure that you use the right detail to make sure that it is understood what you're talking about. Um, I believe it's much easier to understand the role of adjectives in the language, and how we have the core of the sentence and the detail of the sentence. Because all of these pictures I gave you, the core is really the same, right? We have Ibn Khalid, or we have, for example, actually, the core is different. Actually, sorry, the core is different. The core is actually different. We have Ibn, a son that is Hazin. And we have an Ibn, a son that is Sa'id or Farhan. Okay, so the core is actually completely different. Okay, and that's the core message. But now the challenge is, how do I explain to the listener who I'm talking about? Well, so again, you have two doors as well. You have a door that's open and a door is closed. But how do I explain to the listener that I'm talking about the red door or the blue door? Do you see now the importance of adjectives in a language and the details? That's why we said many times before, even though the core delivers the core of the meaning, it's still going to be very vague if you were to just say al-babu maftuhun and al-babu mughlaq. The question is which bab? And I also tried my best to make sure that you appreciate the meaning of mudaf ilayh in terms of it serving as a specification of what you're talking about, as opposed to just possession. A lot of people think that mudaf ilayh is just possession. This belongs to that person, that belongs to... No. Mudaf ilayh is about drawing connection between two words so that the listener knows who or what you're talking about. Now, طيب بإذن الله الكريم, we will continue with with this, inshallah, um, in the next lesson. Now, like I said, not tomorrow, Tuesday session and Thursday session is going to be dedicated to level one. Uh, those students are a bit more advanced. I'll see you back on Saturday. But meanwhile, we're going to be posting a lot of exercises over the course of the coming few days. A lot of them are ready already, but I just need to revise them tomorrow morning and then post them. So, inshallah, the coming 4 or 5 days is the time when you get to practice what we've learned so far, inshallah ta'ala. So keep an eye out on the WhatsApp groups. Like, subscribe, support the channel, support the initiative, share with family and friends. And for those of you that are on level one, I look forward to making all of this easy again. And also, I look forward to a lot more practice, inshallah, especially in a live setting like we did today, as some of you have expressed that it was very beneficial. طيب. I will suffice with that. هذا والله أعلم. صلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد. وجزاكم الله خيرا وبارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.